Welcome back to another Genius Days. Today we are focusing on inner conflict resolution as well as male and female integration of two polar energies, yin and yang, and just focusing on rhythm and harmony and different philosophies like opposing one, specifically Taoism and Stoicism. I am a flow state coach. I'm here to help you feel better and perform better from the Flow Zone Academy. We have two other coaches on the other side. We have Ryan from the Netherlands, who is a data aligned consultant, as well as Ivan Alejandro Acosta, who is your reality creation coach. So it's great of you to join us. Let's get started right away. So, in terms of this topic, guys, what's coming up for you?
So what's coming up for me is, Alejandro, go ahead. Go ahead. You're muted.
I wrote a whole list of words of polarity. I wanted to see how far I could go. I didn't go as far as I could, but I wrote a bunch. Um, and I think I'm gonna go over these real quick. Just I think it's very good. Watch like so: up, down, left, right, in, out, full, empty, high, deep, forward, backward, life, death, God, devil, big, small, win, lose, cooked, raw, truth, lie, thin, thick, hold, let go, hot, cold, float, sink, conscious, unconscious, seen, hidden, past, future, right? But there's one thing right here, right? So, like let's just say I took the word abundance, right? And then I took the word scarcity. Now I find this really interesting, right? Because um within abundance, right, there's a scarce amount of abundant people, right? And within scarcity, um, there's an abundance of scarcity, right? So they it's like there is no such, like, in a way there is no such thing as masculine and feminine because they collapse into each other all the time, right? And that's the thing that's like, it's like so trippy. So like we say masculine and feminine, that's three-dimensional, and there's actually nothing wrong with that because we need to differentiate, we need to like see things, but at the end of the day that to me that just shows how it's all just one.
Yeah, man, I love that. And I almost see it like this creative contrast, like when you have the sun and the moon, there is this beautiful like contrast that you can almost imagine it like a playground. Like if there was only sun all the time, it would get kind of boring, right? And so kind of like LA. No, but seriously though, like in a sense where you would have only a moon, there is no contrast, there's no juxtaposition, there's no up and down. And you understand, of course, like this duality can split us up, right? And I love what you said there. And also just this idea of, how you started off being up and down, I just thought of one plus and minus, right? Um, as you started saying that, bro, it was almost like a chant to me. That was like an affirmation, because you started saying these opposing words, these juxtapositions of these different, like flinging from one pole to the other, like the pendulum is swinging from here to here. And you created such a rhythm as you were doing that, that it reminded me of like the pendulum swing of life. And it was almost like you were dropping some bars. You were rapping for a little while there. So I thought that was really interesting. Ryan, anything coming up for you, brother?
Well, on the topic of inner conflict, a lot. For instance, something I deal with personally is the whole, depression, self pity, all the negative things associated with dealing with conflict, overcoming conflict, having to go, through the hero process of not accepting, acknowledging, learning to acknowledge that things can be better, things can be faster, etc. Quick shout out to Mr. Neil, welcome to the call, and DC, what's up? Um, and how I've been dealing with it in the past was not optimal. If you would look at it as a process, the moment the process stagnates, energy becomes stagnant. Hence the whole idea of energy blocks and etc. Hence, well, a lot of Indians, especially, or people that grew up in the third world country, have have to learn how to deal with, communicating again and dealing with the inner struggle of, I want to express myself. I mean, this is one of the reasons why we started this podcast, to express yourself and talk more about businesses and our expertise. Now, what's coming up for me as well is last night I did not take my downtime seriously. That's something that's often forgotten, meaning you, as let's say the hero of your own story, needs to have a little bit of meditation, a little bit of relaxation, get a massage, chill the fuck out. I mean, people that associate with my type of work are a lot of the times busy bees. We have to work, we have to achieve because it makes us feel fantastic. We love to servitude towards the world, and if we don't, we feel like shit. And it's in that discomfort I had to stay for a while because, things didn't go so well in my last relationship, things didn't go so well in my last business, and I still had to overcome it. And of course, through your coaching and the coaching of ACD, I've managed to figure out a new way of looking at the negativity, meaning, what if all this negativity is nothing more than an emotion? Emotion, energy, emotion, and I can use this energy to further enhance my power, meaning anything. And this comes then to a new mantra I've created during my own journey of the Lion's routines. Everything and anything that happens will heal me. So no matter if it's an exterior conflict or an interior conflict, it will heal me because it's me who chooses what effect it will have. Sumit, passing it back to you. What are your thoughts?
Oh man, that's a really powerful perspective that every single thing is there to heal you. I think, yeah, similarly, I've heard it from, different ideas of, the idea of conflict, specifically inner conflict, is because we have these fragmentations of different characters and we're not able to bring them all together in this kind of courtroom drama and like just speak to all of them and have them shake hands at the end of the day and just, high five each other. They're fighting with each other internally. I was introduced to this topic in my coaching master's program where they're talking about the heart and mind playing this like tug of war game where there was this constant like pulling from these both of these energies, you could say, different energetic frequencies, right? So the heart wants one thing, the mind wants another thing, and that causes a disharmony or a resistance, a tension as they're pulling. So one of the things I was reminded of is like just the idea of drop the rope. There's no need for you to fight and like pull on this rope. Just drop that rope and let that rope do what it needs to do in that moment. And yeah, just that ability to not be so caught up in the drama of the mind and the drama of the heart kind of fighting with each other like they're kind of characters in a soap opera, but rather having them come together and be co-stars in a sense where they're like, okay, we're playing off of each other now and we're not in conflict anymore. So when I think of the word dis-ease, it's a lack of ease, right? Dis-ease, disease, the opposite of that. So when we talk about a mental dis-ease, the opposite of that would be a mental ease. So a lot of the times when we're focusing on, and of course I'm not trying to say like it's very kind of what's the word, very reductionist to kind of say that mental diseases can be, you know, just dealt with through calming the mind. However, at the same time, like when we look at these two opposing frequencies, one is a conflict and one is a calm or an ease. When we can have our thoughts be fluid, because they are, right? We like to put labels on things. We want to categorize things. We want to understand things. We want to crave closure for different things that we have. And the mind loves doing that. It loves to, you know, chase its own tail in a sense. So when we can come back to our core beingness and not worry so much about what's the next thing to do, what's the next thing to say, what's the right thing to do, how do I show up differently at this moment, instead of that micromanagement, which, you know, stops all of us from the flow. I had a post yesterday when I woke up about enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is a different energy which pulls you more towards the frequency of being inspired by something. So a lot of the times I'll notice when I'm fatigued or I feel exhausted, I'm not inspired by my mission. I'm not reminding myself of like that feeling of when I launch a product, and that amazing feeling of like, I know that this is going to go so well. And then other people's opinions come in, these temporary, you know, limited opinions come in. And I am attaching that into the idea that it first initially started off with, right? That launchpad idea. And so instead of getting this barrage of information coming at us, we have to also tap into the inspiration, which is the opposite side. Ryan, could you pull up there's a diagram of a brain that I made. I don't know if you guys could see this, but if we could share the screen. It's not that one. It's the last one. Yeah, there we go. There we go. That one. Yeah, so if you can see right here, guys, right? So I've kind of categorized it as like the left side of the brain, the right side of the brain, right? Information, inspiration. If you notice, there's also Shiva and Shakti in there, very faint, and also the yin and the yang in there, very faint. But I loved to just combine all, and you can see the sun and the moon as well. I just loved doing this collage because I could combine all of these ideas into a very, very simple way. And this is what flow is, right? It's like taking all of these vast concepts and bringing it and boiling it down to like a simple symbol or something like that. So what do you guys think of this? I want to know some of your opinions on this.
Well, my opinion on this is I would love to have a tattoo like this. This looks fantastic. That's the first thought that comes to me. And the second thing is, wow, we could create a product out of this. This in and of itself is a decoding of both the male and female dynamics within, because we both carry both energies. And the second thing is, this would be like a great meta program for any coaching to add on to. I want to know more about this from Alejandro. What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so when I first saw it, I didn't I didn't know what it was, and you could see that that's kind of sometimes when you're trying to understand the universe, you're like, I don't know what this is. You know, what's the universe, man? So the same, I'm looking at it, and then I finally begin to understand. You see, you've got 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, E equals MC squared. It's just information. It's just information. This it's just the word that you put to the knowing, and then the inspiration in spirit, in the feminine, there's the possibility for endlessness. There is literally it's endless. It's endless possibility. But okay, there's something I want to talk about. There's something that you said, Ryan. You said everything is here to heal me. And when you first hear something like that, you think, what? Everything's here to heal me. The hell you talking about, bro? You telling me cancer is here to heal me? Oh, you're trying to heal me? Oh, my puppy just died the other day. You telling my puppy's here to heal me, right? Yes. Yes. Actually, it is. Actually, those bad things are what is healing you. They're there to show you. They're there to show you something about you. They're there to show where you need to work on yourself, where you need to let go, where you need to develop, where you need to connect. And in Sumedh, you said, the drama of the mind and the heart, that's that pulling, right? Well, I thought mind, heart, that's also like saying thoughts and feelings. And that's also like saying electric, magnetic.
Right.
And that's also like saying masculine and feminine. So when you're being pulled in one place, think about this for a second, right? When you're being pulled at one place, you're actually being pulled in all of these places as well, all these extra places. So when you're being pulled in the mind and the heart, you're also being put in your thoughts, feelings, your electromagnetic field, your masculine energy, feminine energy, like everywhere. You're being pulled in all these different dimensions at once, because all of these definitions are real at the exact same time. It's like when they say time, space, and there's like ways to measure the universe, right? That kind of thing. Well, in the Bible, it's like it says, that God came here and he created time and he created space. Um, and they had to be created at the exact same time. You could not create time from space separate. They had to be created at the exact same time. So all of you is these dimensions. So I just want to point out all these multidimensionality that you are living in at the exact same time, right? So there's a sort of meditation that I kind of do, and I'm like, I'm bringing all of myself, all my fragmented reality selves, all of myself from all of my realities into me right now. Pull that energy back into yourself, right? That's really powerful. I want to pass that on to my homie soon.
Awesome, brother. That was amazing, man. Like, yeah, thoughts and feelings. Yeah, it's very important to recognize that, right? Because we're creating with the mind and we're desiring from the heart, and we need both to manifest, right? It's yeah, it's really important to bring that up. And yeah, there's this amazing, multi-dimensionality within each of us. We all have these different characters that we play, but I think it's also important to come back to that neutrality, or that zone where you're just the observer. It's like pressing pause on the video game and just looking at it like a walkthrough, in a sense. I'm sure we've all experienced that feeling of just like watching the thoughts and experiencing the feelings, and not drowning in the emotions, and not getting wrapped up on the thoughts. One thing I realized quite recently is like untangling my headphones was a metaphor for me to untangle my own mind. um, Mr. Neal says, as the diamond is one shape in its initial appearance, also is there a single shape in all its facets that contribute to the diamond's overall appearance. in one is many. Mm. Mr. Neil, do you want to unmute? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure thing. So like what you guys are going on here with the image that you created, which is really cool. So when you ask, what do you think, what come to my mind was, so a diamond, if you look at a diamond, it's a singular shape, but it's a composition of facets. And if we look at character, even though character is one singular identity, in the character attributes and traits, which are the facets, which is the many. So there's the many in one. And my favorite is in the complexities, is simplicities, and there's simplicities in the complexities. So I'm not sure if that clears things up, but that's my interpretation there, that we can see things as a singular, but if you look at things closer and appreciate all the finer elements. So here you have information and inspiration. You talk about the sun and the moon. You talk about the Shiva and the yin and the yang. So there's all these singulars, like individuals, many facets, but they all contribute to creating one. And we can get lost in that, or we can get found in that.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, absolutely. There are little facets that, as you were saying that, I was also reminded of, like, different faces of a die, or a dice. Like, yeah, it's the same idea, right? It's like, yeah, you have these little indents and little moments of, like, I almost love this integration analogy of, like, different colors of Play-Doh, right? So let's say you have green, you have blue, you have purple, you have all these colors, and you're just clumping them up into a rainbow, right? Like a rainbow Play-Doh clump, right? And you're
Well,
seeing.
that's perfect. I mean, look at color. There is no one color, is there? So, what the other fellow was just saying there, if we look at it in its totality, we need all of these differences to have something. Because remember, no thing is something as well. Like, no action is action. So there's the constant duality of it all. So that's a really good thing to bring up, to almost about why is a rainbow made up of multiple colors? Why is that? But it's a rainbow. It's one thing. But in that one thing are other things. So this is where this can just, because if you look at your image, why did you do the image like this? Why did you use color? Why did you use blue? Why did you use red? These are representing something. And I think if people, I mean, I'm not sure because I come in late what you guys are actually getting at here. But if people are looking for some type of identity or answers or solution, look at what it is that you're defining. What is your definitions? Why do you do that? What does that represent for you? Why is the right side not information? I know there's probably science behind that, but this is something you could dive into, and we just accept that there are differences and individualities in all things. And like I said, you can get lost in that, or you can get found in that. But I like how you bring up color. Life would be boring if there was no color, man. Holy shit. What a drag.
Absolutely, man. Uh, I completely agree with you, and I think that it's really about that. Are you getting lost in it, or are you getting found in it? Right? It's like it does come back to that choice point for every.
100%.
And that's what I was talking about with the pausing of the video game. It's like you come back to that choice point, and you can see the world as flow, or you can see the world as illusion. And it's really about, yeah, you are the one who is the self-reliant one who can make that choice to be the interpretation machine, right? So that's really empowering, man. And Joe just posted a funny joke right now. He said, to the guy who invented zero, thanks for nothing, which is incredible. Yeah, anybody else want to chime in? What's coming up for you?
Sure, I'm gonna do a quick 2 cents on. I loved what Mr. Neil said, and it reminded me of a quote from the Kabbalion. I don't remember which chapter, it's either 8 or 3, but it had to do with a religious text of I'm as much of a god as God is God in himself. It had to do with the all, the universe, the etc. And it's the more I look at it, the more I realize, like, yeah, he's right. It's just a clear image of all the emotions, literally the word all, literally the word everything. Like I am a thing and everything at the same time. And it's the same idea as I'm as much of a god as Joe Nicasio is a god, as DC is a god, etc., etc., etc. And it also made us realize that this is also a Bible verse, for he lives through me. I am a God of child. I'm a child of God, I mean, which kind of works the same way, but you see what I mean. We'll, it also goes all the way back to the idea of the unconscious and the subconscious. We have individual consciousness, but we have a hive mind when looking at the subconscious because we share it. And I think that the subconsciousness that we share is also part of God because there are no coincidences. And somehow, some way, we're all connected because it's not a coincidence that we're here. And to continue on from there, on the topic of inner conflict, inner conflict is nothing more you being shown the answers. You just have to acknowledge it and continue on. So I'm giving it to the floor. Alejandro Sumedh, what are your thoughts?
Dude, I
Brother?
had a freaking dope ass idea right now. It came to me. It was something you said, Ryan, but I'm not even gonna lie, it slipped. So if you could remind me about like the last 10 seconds of what you said.
Okay, so the last thing seconds had a lot to do with I am both a child of God as well as the God of a child. Let's say because everything I might be the next big legacy of the family. Let's say, and just like Bruce Lee, when he passed, he became a saint of the MMA world. He is, connected with everything. And what I also went
I
on
got it.
was
I got it.
okay.
Right. So a lot of times they teach in universities, they teach these models of the mind. And some professors will say um, that there's the subconscious, and others like to call it unconscious. But actually, they both exist at the exact same time because they're actually both different, right? I would say that your body is your subconscious, right? Is where you hold your thoughts, where you hold your memories, you hold your experiences, you experience what your feelings because of the body, right? And I mean your heart is running, your body's running, it's all moving stuff like that, right? So it's doing it on a subconscious level, right? With the unconscious, that's the connection to God. That's it's the unconscious. It's in a way because it's like um in terms of like being able to connect to your past lives and things like that, right? All that stuff is like super super unconscious because you go through the veil of forgetfulness, right? So um so the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think we have to acknowledge both models of the mind. I think both models of the mind need to be acknowledged. A lot of times they're kind of like, it's this one or that one, right? And it goes again to and watch this. Watch how I'm gonna watch. Okay, look, it's this one or that one. That's exactly what they do in 3D reality. It's this one or that one, right? And that's what happens when we're being pulled in the mind. It's this one or that one, right? And that's what happens when we have guilt. We're like, I like it, but I shouldn't like it. Right? And that's that pull. That is that pull that's happening. So I would say both. I would say whenever stuff like that starts happening, so you'd be like, okay, you know what? Why not both? People say, would I rather spend time with my family or be rich? Both. Both. Why not both? Right? You got to do both. Mr. Neil, I see you've got your hand up. Do you have a question?
No, not a question, man. I just want to add on to what you said about the body, right? The subconsciousness being the body, and I'm in an agreement to you on that. And one thing I've found or dubbed that with experiences and memories and emotions, that these become vibrational patterns at a cellular level. And I was sharing this with Sumedh, and that there's a distortion in that. And it's until you eliminate or recalibrate that distortion, you're always going to have these emotional issues, and then that's going to create a belief system and create this resistance, like you were just mentioning there about the guilt. Because why are you guilty? There's a story behind that, right? You've created some bullet text behind the guilt to create a justification. I feel guilty because. So then you would think, okay, so what's causing the guilt? And then that comes to the subconsciousness, and like just saying, and then Sumedh was saying dis-ease, and dis is disruption. It's a disruption in the ease of. So I would just say to people, look, this is some pretty heavy stuff. This is getting right down into your cells, and it's a residual cellular vibrational pattern. And until you figure that pattern out, you always have the same issues coming up and up and up. And that's why I think people feel guilty about wanting to do good things for themselves.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I agree with that. You know, like the idea of this or that, right? I love that example you gave. Guilty or not guilty, right? We do that in court. So there's this kind of idea of the choose your own adventure novel with like go to page 15, or they were there in the Goosebumps books. I don't know if anybody remembers. It's like only two choices. And in life, we don't only have two choices, right? We have an infinite buffet of options, but we oftentimes our mind gives us this sense of split mind. And one way that I've been able to overcome this, and this was also inspired by AZD, one of my mentors, is, you know, thinking of a character as a certain vibe, right? And thinking of, let's say, a specific character that you admire, that you want to embody, and thinking of that vibe, and thinking of a similar vibe in the same lineage, you could say, of another character, and that you also admire. So it could be like, let's say, I don't know, Goku from Dragon Ball Z. He has a very powerful vibe, as well as another person who also has a powerful vibe, such as, let's say, I don't know, anybody think of any other examples? Someone who's powerful?
Cowboy Bebop, a completely different kind of hero.
Cowboy Bebop. Got it. Okay, so cool. So they both have a similar powerful vibe, okay? Now, you want to ask these two characters the question of like, what should I do today? Should I eat pizza or sushi or whatever your split mind decision is? Now that they're in a very similar vibe, they're going to come together, and sometimes they may argue with each other, but they're going to reach a consensus usually. So you ask Cowboy Bebop, he says sushi all day. And then you ask Goku and he says, I don't care about this question. I'm here to fight crime, or whatever his answer is. And so when you have that, you're like, okay, I've seen both of their perspectives, and now have them talk it out with each other. And then you reach that third consensus. And then from there, you don't have this split mind decision-making error anymore of like all or nothing, up or down, black or white, because they're a similar frequency, right? So we've just gone from like one and one over here to one spectrum. So that's kind of one way that I've been able to deal with this kind of split mind decision making in a way where I'm also using the technique of TPM, which is my book, to create these different distinct characters, but they share a similar vibe. So what do you guys think of that?
One thing Zoom taught me a long ass time ago was like put a name on it, you know. Put a name on it, you know. If that whatever little that voice, that one voice that makes you scared, tries to tell you scared things. Put a name on it. It's a name, you know. That way, it's not even you. It's not even you anymore. It's separate from you. And I think that in a way, that is something that everybody should do. That's something that I'm pretty sure you guys already do. Is like you guys try to separate yourself from the thing, you know. Like it's like, yeah, fuck it. All right, you know what? That's not my thought. As a matter of fact, that is not my thought. That's a thought, right? Stop claiming it. Stop claiming it. You're a
Like the idea of like, I'm not sad, I'm feeling sadness, right? So yeah, a lot of the times we identify with these emotions. And yeah, I love the idea of naming it, because we take power over something when we label things, right? We take authority over it. So yeah, sometimes we got to take authority over our own minds. Mr. Neal says, is guilt an emotion, feeling, or energy? Is it from feminine position to feel guilt or confusion? If so, what would be the masculine counterpart? Anybody want to take this?
Yeah, I'll take it. So, Mr. Neil, this is my opinion. I'm not an expert at this, but I too feel guilty of a lot of things. It is also to how you relate to, it's a specific entity, object, whatever subject topic that you feel guilty to. In my case, it would be I feel guilty when I eat too much chocolate, or consume a lot of, let's say, anime, whatever, because it distracts from the purpose. However, only to later find out all that time I was subconsciously picking up character traits of a different, you know, beings within the story, living through these people and finding my hero identity, so to speak. And that's like going through the coaching with Pete Kirkwood and Sumedh, and of course ACD. Now, coming back to the point of Alejandro said the masculine version of guilt is shame. Yeah, which is true. It's if you take the, and I believe Sumit and I talked about this in like way back, the Maslow 2.0, that also takes into account the emotional and vibrational side of things, where shame is the lowest. Shame and guilt are usually interconnected with each other because you're ashamed of something you're guilty of, I believe. And what if we could use shame as I am not ashamed, but shame is a part of me within the here and the now. In the same sense that something that we learned yesterday from ACD, character is but a mask. It is but a tool. And then my monkey mind started to think, what if everything is a tool for me to use? And I simply have to learn to become competent in catching it like a bird from the sky and then raising it to be of service to me.
Like a Pokeball, Ryan.
Like a Pokeball. Let's take an anime reference. Joe, you want to say something?
Well, a couple things. Is everything a tool? Is everything a toy for me to play with? That's another. What is we talked about guilt. To me, one of the opposites of guilt is worry, because guilt is like feeling bad about shit you've done in the past, and worry is feeling about shit that hasn't happened in the future and probably won't even happen. And so I think from a timeline, I see those polar opposites. And so that was it. I think that, this conversation about, I saw the graphic that you posted, Sumedh, about, discipline and surrender. It's like this thing about making things happen versus allowing things to happen. it brings up the joke, if you want to hear God laugh, tell her your plans, because we get so disciplined and want to make things happen, and yet the universe doesn't all, there's a bigger thing than just my ego of trying to make shit happen. There's bigger things in play. So I think the best we can do is create the conditions to allow things to happen. I can't make things happen. I can't make the universe move. I can poke the universe and something will emerge somewhere else, out there. And so, the closest I think we can get is to create the conditions. We can make the conditions and then surrender to allow things to happen. And when we merge those two together, things can flow pretty cool. And then the other thing that kind of came up is I heard some previous conversation is this idea of God, and we are God, and we have God potential within us. And it just reminds me of the story, the word atonement, atonement. We're not separate from God, but when we got cast out of the garden, we had the illusion of separation. It's an illusion that we're separated from God. And that was the whole purpose of, Jesus Christ, was to wake us up and open the gates of heaven. It's like, we're not separate from God. We're connected to God. God flows in and through us, especially when we're living righteously, and that creates the alignment for God to flow through us. Our church put out a little video that was really cool, that God is constantly trying to bless us like a shower of blessings. And what happens is when we're in alignment with God, we receive those blessings. But when we sin, or we make bad decisions, we make bad choices, it's like we put up an umbrella and block the blessings. So it's not like if we obey, it's like not like God is some kind of like enforcer setting these rules. If you behave this, you'll get blessings. No, God is constantly blessing. The universe is constantly blessing. And when we're living right, like, the blessings will flow. And then when we do stupid shit, we block our own blessings. Anyway, that's so the whole idea is when we get at one with God, when we live in righteousness, then that blessing and that spirit can flow through us. Anyway, that's the shit that was coming up for me.
Do you mind if I take it over real quick? It has a lot to do with what Joe just said, and the question that Neil is asking now. What Neil is asking is it possible that a conflict is resistance to the agreement of what I believe with God, and what is truthful to the holder of the conflict? Now, of course, all conflict is relative. That's first things first, is relative to you. The second thing I would say is it has a lot to do with I forgot his name, but it has a lot to do with the Serenity experiment. What if all we had to do is not resist to the situation? Because every time I started to resist the situation, the worse it became. Every time, every time, every time. I can't even bring into words how foolish, or I mean, still probably to a certain extent foolish I am to resist certain events, because that's how the energy blocks became about. I decided to, not speak up, not speak out, not share my opinion. Boom, energy block. Now, this is my simplistic way of expressing that maybe surrender isn't a bad thing. Only when you surrender towards, what is the higher good, that higher being, that higher whatever, say you achieve, true enlightenment, let's say. Now, of course, I both realize that I'm saying it from a place of ease as well as naivety, because I have yet to learn more. I'm not a guru, so to speak. However, if you follow, the Kabbalion, the teachings, what is true for one art has to be true for another. When you look at the meta processes, the laws of the universe. I mean, going on to emotional mastery is ultimately self-mastery, because we are humans, creatures of emotions. Now, I want to pass the ball to either Sumedh or Alejandro. What do you guys think about this?
Well, I really like the idea of Well, I don't like the idea, but it's something that I've thought about, like, of the idea that suffering is not accepting reality, like not accepting what is. And so we create these walls, these heart walls, these mind walls, and that prevents us from actually experiencing life in a sense. Carl Jung said, "Whatever we resist will persist." Is very true. If you lock out anger from your door, like it's gonna start coming in with a battering ram at a certain point, right? It's gonna be like a dormant volcano just waiting to erupt. And so we've got to give that emotion, the energy in motion, space to move around and do its thing. I think it's coming to half the time right now. So, Ivan, if you want to guide us a little bit through a stretch or like a breath work, yin yang breath work, brother, that'd be fantastic.
Everybody in the club getting tipsy. All right. So look, this is what we call the yin and the yang breath. Now, I really love this. I really love this breathing technique because I mean, there's so many breathing techniques. It's so weird. It's crazy that out of this, the simplest thing, there's the most infinite, right? And in this technique, we start off, we breathe in through the mouth, through the nose, right? You're gonna breathe in. You're gonna basically pull in like this. It's very good to have a visualization. You're gonna pull in like this, and it's gonna come out like this, because you're gonna come out through your mouth now, right? So, and then after you breathe out of your mouth, you breathe in through your mouth into your belly, right? And then have the visualization of pulling up. And then when you breathe, and then you're gonna breathe out through your nose, and you're gonna push it up, right? So the visualization is like doing boom, 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 right? And that's basically what you're doing: nose, mouth, mouth, nose, nose, mouth, mouth, nose, right? Okay, let me see. Let's get a timer. Does anybody have any questions?
Nope, I think we're good, bro.
No,
Let's get it.
those are fucking geniuses. That's why. All right, let's fucking go. All right, your marks. Get set, go. It's not a race. It's not a race. It's not a race. All right. Just in the count of 3, we can begin to let out a breath, and then breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the mouth, out through the nose, in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the mouth, out through the nose, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. We can begin to speed up. In, out, 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 in, out. Hold your breath. Feel your body pulsating. You may breathe. Bring your attention into your chest, into your heart, and feel your heart. Just be. Make the decision right now in this altered state of consciousness. Make the decision right now. There is a decision that you must make. You know it. Make the decision right now. How's everybody feeling?
Fresh.
I felt my third eye pulsating for a little bit. That was cool.
Yeah,
Energy.
what did you guys find different, from this breathing technique from maybe other things that you've done?
Well, when you ask the question, it immediately like an energy flow towards, okay, these are the root causes. Why not feed it? Why not feed the root cause to dissolve it and no longer resist it? Then what would be the logical answer? So these were like the thoughts that were going into me while focusing a lot on my heart and chest. And then an ease came where I could feel my heart relax anyway and my solar plexus relax. I was like, here's the answer. Relax. Just be and execute. That's all. Anyone else?
Yeah, feel free to comment in the chat box or unmute yourself.
I just felt like a complete nothingness, super just neutralized, earthed, grounded, almost neutral, like a being, but not being. It's really good. I just felt, I literally could feel my heart and just like the outside of the heart, and that's it. I couldn't feel anything else. I just was like I was my heart for that moment. It was good. So I appreciate it. And this reminds me of a story about 3 feet from gold. When you said the decision, and I'm like, it's already been made, mate. I already made it. Being on this call is part of the decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Wow.
appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Devin, what about you, homie? You haven't said nothing.
Yeah, that was cool. It was cool. Yeah, relaxed for sure.
Relax. It's early where you are, right?
8:30. It's an hour or two before you.
Nice. All right. Okay. I'm glad you liked it.
Thank
Yeah.
you for joining in, Troy. I see we're getting some people joining, and Castor as well. Sweet. We just went through a yin yang breath work. So if you guys missed it, catch the recording. Personally, Ivan, man, I felt through that breath work similar to what Mr. Neal said in terms of like I became that choice point consciousness, right? I became the decision maker in that moment. So that question of what is the decision that you have to make was very aligned to that concept and that idea. And yeah, I just felt everything slow down. Like it was, I wasn't seeing time as chronological or linear, but it was more like it just was. If that makes sense, right? Kind of metaphysical, but yeah. If anybody has to take a quick stretch break or anything right now, I would say go for it. And anyone who wants to stay on, let's continue onwards. We're going for like 5-10 more minutes, Kasra. But yeah, catch the recording, brother. So I see Joe has said levels of suffering, lowest to highest. Don't suffer, but pretend, level 1. Level 2, suffer but quit. Level 3, suffer but show, weak mind still active. Suffer and don't show, mind tightens, weak side out. And suffering becomes only suffering. Mind is free through acceptance. I love that, Joe. Could you explain that further?
Yeah, that actually came from one of my first karate teacher. He wrote a book called The Relevance of Karate to Everyday Life. And one of the exercises we do in karate is a kibadachi, 90-minute horse stance, where you get in a squat and you hold it for 90 minutes. We do this at our special training, which is like our, 5-day karate boot camp. And there are so many lessons that you learn by sitting in that squat for 90 minutes because the body can handle it. Okay. But 3 minutes in, you're like not wanting to sit in this squat anymore, and, so, for 90 minutes, you're sitting in this and you're feeling these sensations. And one of the lessons that you learn from that exercise is that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Pain is simply the sensation. But the suffering is all the storytelling, the drama, all the the crybaby shit that comes up around just the simple sensation. And so, you get in the squat for 60 seconds and you're like, you pretend like you're suffering, but you're not really suffering. Like, you're just being a wussy. That's really what's going on. But what happens is, as part of this exercise, you're going to be there for 90 minutes. By the way, one of the things they do when we do this exercise is they block off all the clocks. So you don't have any connection to time. And there's a circle in the center with black belts facing outwards. And then the white belts and brown belts are around the black belts. And then there's more black belts on the outside. And the whole time you're sitting in the squat, they're just saying lower, deeper, get deeper into the stance, and there's this thing that, it's like, okay, I'm just going to breathe for 90 minutes. I'm going to breathe and I'm going to accept this is where I'm living for the next 90 minutes. And so then the suffering starts to come up and then you just learn, I'm going to live here. I'm just going to breathe here. And you breathe through, you visualize, when you breathe in, like you have those aching muscles in your quads and in your hamstrings, you know, and in your ankles. And what you do is you just breathe like the oxygen to heal like the sensations that you're experiencing. So there's just, so, you know, there's this thing about making things happen versus allowing things happen, or discipline versus acceptance. And you know, before we went on the little break, you know, I heard you say suffering, and so that really triggered me to pull up this little 5 levels of suffering, because I think it's relevant to, you know, are you going to make yourself sit in that stance? You know, I'm going to force myself to sit here for 90 minutes, or are you going to just accept this is where I live and it's okay? And, you know, and man, that's where you learn mental toughness, is do a 10-minute Kibadachi. Just get in a squat for 10 minutes sometime later today, and just notice all of the chatter, the monkey brain that comes up. This, oh, I can't do this, I don't want to do this, you know. And you know, one of the things our sensei said all the time is, you know, we live in a soft world. You know, we wake up, we're in a soft bed with soft pillow and soft blankets, and we wake up and we, you know, put our feet on the floor with this soft carpet, and we have, you know, these luxury homes, these nice homes, and then we jump in a car, we drive to campus, a nice car, not so nice car. And, you know, and martial arts is a place where you intentionally put yourself in a place of pain. You intentionally are tough on yourself. You are intentionally suffering. And through that, that's the muscle we need to exercise to get that toughness to endure the tough times. And find that there's a making and an allowing, and the suffering is all the bullshit story that, man, our storytelling can really fuck us up. So anyway, that's why I shared that.
It's almost like the secondary pain, right? You would say, like, there's the initial pain, and then there's a storyline you attach to the pain.
Yeah, let's amplify it.
Excellent. So just regular squatting, or these wall sits, or they just
No, you put your feet parallel about shoulder distance, and you drop into a squat, keep your back straight, and you can't be hands around, keep them, you know, like straight by your side, and you just
yeah.
And I'll tell you, you know, you feel it in the muscles, but it's really about developing that mental strength.
Love it. Excellent.
And peace. You know, one of the things I learned in martial arts is you go to battle, you're sparring with somebody. The person with the calmest mind is the one that wins. The person that's freaking out is going to get exhausted faster, you know, but the master, he's just sitting there like this. He's just waiting, then, you know, and it just happens. You know, one shot, one kill is the mentality of our martial arts style.
Yeah, you know, honestly, I've been that's the thought that came to me the other day in my meditation was like be more water. Because I like to be fire. I love the element of fire. You know, I love the whole, you know, fire takes whatever you give it, and it makes itself bigger. But with water, I thought about tsunamis and how they gather a bunch of momentum and they go bam, and they don't even do it. It's not even their own force. They're not even trying hard. They just like Joe said earlier, actually I wrote it down. You know, just create the conditions. They just create the conditions literally with the weather. They're like, the conditions were perfect for this, you know. So it happens in water. Be more like water, you know. Have those visualizations and connect yourself to earth. Like, think of yourself as metal. Think of yourself as a rock, right? Like whenever I was first studying living with narcissists and codependence and stuff like that, there's a one technique that was like when there's energy vampires around you, you know, that one person that just is sucking up your energy, right? Like let's just say it's a work situation. It's very difficult to deal with something like that at the office. It's like, what do? Well, you become a rock. Literally, you become a stone. You can't, stones don't listen, right? Stones don't have ears. Stones don't feel like that, you know? So you become the elements of the earth, right? Or if you want to become iron, like I was punching the wall, you know, because I want like I have like stronger fists. I've seen people have like really strong fists, you know. I think that's something I want as well. And I had to visualize iron. My hand is iron. My hand is iron. My hand is iron, even though it hurts, you know. And that's just one of my techniques that I like to apply for this, for you know my own mental struggles. Is be with nature, be the nature.
Ivan, I love what you said there. I actually posted something on my story today, which was like, every time that you set a loving boundary, an energy vampire loses one of its fangs. So I love that. It goes to the idea that you were saying of like becoming the rock, right? And are we stoicism the rock, or are we Taoism the water? Sometimes we got to be both, right?
I like
It's changing from moment to moment. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I like this idea. One of the exercises, we do all kinds of weird metaphorical drills in martial arts. And one of them is like you walk through, you're moving around and you're like a feather. And then when you punch somebody, you become the mountain, you know? So you go from the feather to the mountain. And also when you punch somebody, I don't punch with my fist. You know, I use my hips, but what I'm doing is I'm planting that back leg into the earth. So I'm not punching you with me, I'm punching you with the earth. Okay. And that mentality, you know, we do all kinds of weird metaphors. It's like, it's like when you punch somebody, it's like your body is like a tube of toothpaste. Okay. And you're squeezing from the foot all the way up and it comes out the fist. But yeah, be water, be earth, connected to earth, you know, go from feather to mountain and then back to feather. Like, I don't want to be punching people all day long. You know, my sensei says harmony is the most precious element of our lives. Now that's a pretty interesting thing from a guy that teaches you how to kill with your bare fists. Okay. But when you think about it, you know, we live in a world, we want to have harmony, but then disharmony comes along. So we got to use a little disharmony to bring back the harmony, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Neil, I hear you dropping a quote. Do you want to read that out loud?
Sure, man. There's a few there. This is going on what Joe was saying and something before. I think it was what Joe was mentioning. So just a statement would be, what is it that you are prioritizing to occupy your mental space? So that would be going what you guys were talking about, the pain and then the secondary pain and attaching the story. And then, but this can go into so many other levels, suffering, et cetera, et cetera. So what is it that you're prioritizing to occupy your mental space? Then under that, I've got, this is one of my favorite, and I will claim ownership to this because I've never seen it anywhere else. When you make silence your loudest noise, you learn to hear more. And I think that's super, super important. It goes into, you know, being calm and in reference to what Joe was saying. And I've been a very angry individual for a lot of my life. And when you're angry, you're very pinpoint, you're very narrow. And then you come out of the angry state, you're like, fuck, what happened? I was literally oblivious, and people would like, yeah. And it's like, no, I was literally that involved in such a rage. I didn't know what was going on. But then when you become calm, you seem to observe more, you take more in. And I realized, shit, when you learn to make silence your loudest noise, you learn to hear more. And it just makes it's practical too. Like, shut the fuck up and just listen. My boxing coach said to me, it's interesting, a lot of us here have some type of martial art background. My boxing coach said to me, you've got two ears, so you need to listen more than you talk. And then underneath that, it would be, I've got be the rock that holds the water and be the water that shapes the rock. Going back, I think it was Ryan was mentioning, like, or was it Alejandro, like, be both. Instead of being so focused on being one thing. And I realized this, you know what my superpower is? Versatility. I have the ability to be the rock that holds the water and the ability to be the water that shapes the rock.
Incredible.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. Sumi, do you mind if I take over for real quick? It
Go for
reminds
it.
me, of course, it reminds me of something that we from the IMC Academy, the Lions Den, have learned of to become soft of character but hard of boundary, meaning I will no longer resist what happens. Thus, I become water. But I also will no longer take anyone's shit, meaning I am still going to place hard boundaries. So should you cross, is an immediate effect of the program. Goodbye, farewell. When you come back with an apology or give me a chance to correct our relationship, we shall continue. And that has brought a lot of ease into my life and harmony. And I loved what Neil said, or either Neil or Joe said about life is about creating harmony within your own. And to take martial arts as a metaphor or a speaking point, ultimately to become a master in whatever fighting style is to learn how to master your body, which is an extension of your character, which is an extension of your life. So, Sumit, seeing how you're the main host, do you still want? How many minutes do you want to continue, or shall we continue this discussion?
Yeah. We can go on for like, let's say 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. I'll put in a timer, and then I suggest to open up all the mics. And if you guys want to talk, feel free. I'm also looking at you, DC, because I haven't heard you on this call yet. And
Um,
Kasra, feel
yeah,
free
Yeah,
to.
I was wondering if anybody had any questions, anything they wanted help with, that applies like specifically in their lives. Like since like we're all gathered here, like like I said, this is a gathering of like philosophers, like thinkers, like it's genius days. Like if you actually think about it, like everybody here, we've got our own genius. Like if anybody has any their own questions of their own business and stuff like that that they need, for sure ask it. Like this is would be the place.
anything regarding mind, body, business, inner conflict.
Food,
Yeah, I got a quick question.
what to
Yeah.
do.
So if you guys could speak on, um, I think you guys mentioned it earlier, but accomplishing things with the without applying yourself necessarily, like action, like that fire aspect, that taking like going hella hard. I'm sure you guys know me, and how I can come off at times, and that's actually how I am. And a lot of different aspects is really action, 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 action. And I know some of you guys are more into the idea of like manifesting, or different terms like that on the other side, if you guys know what I'm saying.
I got you, bro. I got what you're saying, bro. So it's not necessarily that we're saying don't do, right? Or don't take action. It's more so don't don't take action from the place of action. I'll tell you what that means. Like I know you've seen this where people will study pickup, people might study dating, and the guy, whatever random guy that they're studying, said, oh, go tell a girl, that you want to buy her some bread. And the guy goes and he tells her, hey, yo, I want to buy you some bread. Oh man, it didn't work because you did the action from the place of action, right? Instead of doing the action from a place of beingness, right? Instead of trying to think, oh, how can I accomplish my goals? I think more like, how can I be the person that it's easy for this goal to accomplish? And I try to like be that person. When you are that person, it is very easy to take the necessary actions, because you will need to take actions, and that is how you manifest, by taking the actions. Like let's just say you want to move to a different country because you're just done with this shit. You actually do have to take an action, right? But it came from the place of your beingness, right? That's really what it means.
I love that. And what I'm going to say here is more theory than like I actually practice it like in a perfect way. But all communication is a stimulus pause response. So and so we can act and then act some more and act some more, but I think we're a lot more effective when we act like we're pinging the world, and then we like pause and see how that responds. And then the way that the response happens, then we can act in a different way and make, and so there's this ebb and flow of acting, pausing, and responding. I tend to be like act, talk, move. And then like I'll stop and say, oh, what's going on with you now? But I think the more that we can tune into the fact that we put things out, and instead of just assuming, we can put things out and have a little bit of presence and adjust, so that when we put something out again, it's harmonized with it's not just us putting a message out, but there's a true interaction and a true connection with the other person or persons or environment, and so I think this idea of pinging and responding is different than just act.
Totally.
I can add on to this just real quick. In regards to the question, would be invest in the actions, and I think Collie said something similar. Invest in the actions that will lead you to the outcomes, but avoid investing in the emotion of the outcomes, if that makes sense. So invest in the action that bring forward the outcomes, but avoid investing in the emotions of wanting the outcomes.
There's a metaphor, it's like when you fly from, I'm in Las Vegas now. I'm flying from Las Vegas to Kolkata. Okay. So you set the autopilot on and you point the plane in a direction, and the first thing that happens is the wind blows you off course. And so then you adjust, and then the wind blows you off course again and you adjust, and gravity pulls you off course and you adjust. And so like 80% of the time you're actually off course. Now, as human beings, it's like, oh, I want to go from here to there, and you're off course. It's like, oh, I'm being rejected, or I'm being pushed in the wrong direction. And all those emotions can come up. But the truth is it's like, when the autopilot says you're off course, it's not personal, it's not rejection. All it's doing is giving me the negative feedback. I need to change course in my direction to make sure I can, I have a designated outcome. I know I want to go from here to there, and I'm off course like 80% of the time, but I still get from here to there because I listen to those negative feedback course corrections. And instead of taking it personally, it's just like, okay, I'm off course, adjust. I'm off course, adjust. I'm off course, adjust. Next thing I know, I've landed in Kolkata International Airport, if there is such a thing.
Totally is. Thank you, Joe, for sharing that. I love that question. It really simplifies that, and that metaphor of understanding that course correct, autocorrect, you could say even, where it's the question of WIGO, right? We go. What is going on? Right? We sometimes just have to pause and ask ourselves, what is going on? And that's kind of the question that redirects the mind, and gives us that sense of wu-wei, which is what we're trying to create, which is the action of non-action, or effortless effort, in a sense.
And there's a follow-up question: what's going on, and what's really going on?
Really going on.
Yo, Devin, I feel like we didn't really answer your question, but I think we said a lot of great things. I guess I'm thinking like what I'm feeling, at least through my third eye, whatever you want to think of it is that this has to do with your business, and specifically like with success and achievement. I would say ask yourself the question, where do things don't have to be so hard, right? Where can I delegate? Where can I have somebody else do it, right? Don't try to do it all by yourself. Like pair yourself up with somebody, like let's just say us three, me, Ryan, and Sumedh, we're all here together. We organize together, and we can get more people together, that way, right? And we actually have more reach. And then now like my people get to know Sumedh, Ryan, and their people get to know me, and there's that collaboration, right? So look for other people to that are on a similar frequency, right? Similar frequency has to specifically be like that, but are on a different like parallel universe, right? So that you can combine these like universes, and you guys can like be like a bunch of cars that jump on each other, and it suddenly becomes like a giant robot, you know?
I love that analogy, man. Ryan, are we good on time?
We are way good on time. We're like almost like 20 minutes over time, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And I'll simply end it on this. DC, as per the tribal council, one of the lessons were leaders come from ease. So that's my 2 cents. So Sumit, Alejandro, any ending notes on your end? Seeing how already over time.
Yeah, well, I'll just read out what Coley wrote. It's interesting. Create conditions for intentions to flow while being present in the conditions, which I think sums it up very nicely. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Coley. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask everyone real quick. Coley, do you have any questions before we end the call? No? Kasra? Mr. Neil? Joe? Any questions?
I could.
Yeah, for sure.
Of
I'm
course
a
you
good man. Great life in a crooked world. We're trying to make things happen, but the world's pretty crazy. It's like the world's pretty unpredictable right now. And so I don't know. I just wanted to kind of throw it out. Maybe it's too big of a thing to ask, but how do we maintain our own peace and our own achievement, in a world that is so fucking crazy and unpredictable and led by, I don't know, man. I think the inmates are running the asylum sometimes.
Well, you would be surprised how true that is. uh, DC, any questions?
No, I just want to say thank you guys for answering the question. I thought very useful insights right there.
No
So I
problem.
appreciate you guys. Yeah, thank you, geniuses.
I appreciate it. Troy, Olvera. Is he there?
Hey, what's up?
What's up, Troy?
No, I loved it. Like, honestly, all your guys' insights were exactly what I needed right now. So just really grateful for you guys creating this space. And yeah, just looking forward for the rest of the day now.
Awesome.
Yo, Troy, your last name, that's my grandma's last name.
It's very cool.
crazy. Yeah.
Okay, you guys should
Olvera.
get connected.
Shit,
Might be a
bro.
long lost cousins.
Shit, bro. We're probably cousins.
All right, for sure.
Awesome. Now, one thing we like to do is if you can give your IG handles either via the chat or just rename yourself. We can take one big picture and I'll just post it on IG so you can see each other's services, etc. And of course, a quick shout out to Joe Nicasio. He's both Sumit and my business coach. So feel free to reach out if you can.
I'm also working with Neil.
And Neil. Oh yeah, I completely forgot Neil.
This is like a class reunion from the employee escape plan.
That is true.
Wait. Oh.
I don't even know my Instagram. I think it's just Joseph Nicasio or Joe Nicasio.
Totally also post your Instagrams into the show notes as well when we post it on YouTube. Awesome, guys. This was amazing. If we want to take maybe a group, maybe a screenshot.
A group selfie. Oh, everybody put y'all pretty face on. Hey.
I love your energy, Acosta. Really, Jesus Christ. I wish I had the energy for this.
Thank you, bro. Come live with me.
I'll try. Send me your address. I'll come next week.
We're gonna make a base camp here in Austin, Texas.
We should. Awesome. Now the picture has been taken. I wish you all a fantastic weekend. For those of you who still have a weekend to live, And, as per ACD's quote, be the best, fuck the rest. Ciao.